The hunt, the forests of Black Hollow stretched endlessly, a sea of shadowy green that seemed to devour all light. For decades, rumors surrounded the woods. Hunters went missing, campers fled with tales of monstrous silhouettes, and those who lived near the forest swore they heard unearthly howls at night. Jack and Ethan, seasoned outdoorsmen and brothers, had heard the stories all their lives. They dismissed them as nothing more than tall tales spun by drunkards and the superstitious. This year's hunting trip, however, would challenge their bravado. They left at dawn, rifles slung over their shoulders and their old truck rumbling down the dirt road leading into Black Hollow. Ethan, the younger of the two, cracked jokes to lighten the mood, but Jack remained stoic. Something about the forest felt different this time, though he'd never admit it. The first day was uneventful. They set up camp in a clearing near a stream, a spot Jack chose for its open line of sight. As they sat by the fire that night, the usual forest symphony of insects and distant rustles was eerily absent. "You notice that?" Ethan asked, tossing a stick into the flames. "Notice what?" Jack said, though he already knew. "No animals, no sounds, just quiet." Jack shrugged. "Maybe the stories got to your head." But later that night, as they lay in their tent, both brothers heard it, a distant low howl that sent shivers down their spines. Jack reached for his rifle, his grip tightening as he listened. "Wolves?" Ethan whispered. "Maybe," Jack lied. Morning brought no comfort. The forest seemed heavier, the air thick and oppressive. As they hunted, they found no signs of deer or other game, just silence and the occasional inexplicable rustle in the distance. By mid-afternoon, Ethan froze in his tracks. "Jack, look!" In the soft earth before them were massive footprints. They were over twice the size of a man's, with deep impressions that hinted at an immense weight. "Bear," Jack said, but his voice wavered. Ethan knelt, tracing the edge of the print with his fingers. "Bears don't have toes like this." The brothers exchanged uneasy glances before continuing, their rifles now drawn. The footprints led to a small clearing where they stumbled upon a grisly sight, a deer carcass, gutted and suspended from a tree by its own entrails. The stench was overwhelming. Ethan retched, staggering back. What the hell could do this? Jack scanned the trees, his pulse pounding. Something we don't want to meet. They decided to head back to camp, but the woods seemed to shift around them. Paths they'd walked earlier were gone, replaced by unfamiliar terrain. The sun began to sink, casting long, claw-like shadows. As darkness fell, the sounds began, soft at first, like distant footfalls, but growing louder and more deliberate. Jack ordered, his voice low but firm. "Jack, it's close," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. A deafening roar shattered the silence, followed by a thunderous crash as trees splintered nearby. The brothers broke into a sprint, their hearts pounding as they dodged branches and leapt over roots. Behind them, something massive moved, its steps shaking the ground. They reached their camp just as the last light faded, the fire pit cold and useless. Jack grabbed their gear, shouting, "We're leaving now!" As they fumbled to pack, the creature emerged from the darkness. Its silhouette was monstrous, taller than any man, covered in matted fur, with eyes that glowed a sickly yellow. Ethan screamed, firing his rifle blindly. The creature roared, unfazed, and charged. "Run!" Jack bellowed, shoving Ethan ahead. The brothers sprinted into the night, the beast in relentless pursuit. Their lungs burned, their legs ached, but they dared not stop. The creature's growls echoed in their ears, closer with every second. Suddenly, Ethan tripped, tumbling to the ground. Jack skidded to a halt, doubling back to help his brother. "It's coming!" Ethan cried, scrambling to his feet. But before they could move, the creature was upon them. Jack turned, firing point-blank into its chest. The beast staggered but didn't fall. It swiped at Jack, sending him flying into a tree with a sickening thud. Ethan screamed his brother's name, frozen in terror as the creature loomed over Jack's crumpled body. But then it paused. Its head snapped toward the distance, as if hearing something. Without a sound, it melted back into the shadows, leaving Ethan trembling and alone. He rushed to Jack, who groaned weakly. We have to move," Jack gasped, blood trickling from his mouth. Dragging his brother, Ethan stumbled through the forest, guided only by faint moonlight. Behind them, the woods grew silent once more, but the brothers knew it wasn't over. They reached an old logging road, collapsing onto the gravel. Ethan fumbled for his flashlight, its weak beam barely cutting through the darkness. Then they heard it, a guttural snarl from the shadows. The flashlight flickered, and Ethan froze. Two glowing yellow eyes stared back at them from the tree line. The last thing they heard was the crunch of footsteps growing louder.